Who wants a pot of coffee? I just made coffee. You want a cup of coffee? Sure, there you go. Who wants coffee? Anybody else want coffee? Who wants coffee?
And now it's time for the man with the caffeine, the new tropics for the brain. It's Coffee with Mike. Hang in, hang tight, grab your cup, and let's get this thing started.
Everybody, welcome back to Java Chats, Coffee with Mike. And today we get to sit with another amazing guest, our new friend, Cindy Marshall. Cindy, thanks for joining us on Java Chat.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you as well. You've got a real interesting story, and I would love for you to share a bit of that. You know, we do this in the three sections that everybody's familiar with, you know, who you are. So give us some idea of who Cindy Marshall is. Where are you from? What's your story?
Okay, thank you. So I grew up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Yeah, definitely a Packer fan.
Yeah, sure. I would be remiss if you weren't coming from there.
Yeah, you're kind of first. There's actually the senior centers there. They hand knit Packer hats around the clock, and so every newborn is a Packer fan.
There you
get
go.
A new Packer hat put on their head to like within minutes. But yeah, I grew up with 5 kids in my family. My dad was a barber. We were definitely unconventional in how we grew up. We were kind of like Catholic hippies, if I were to put it. You know, I don't know if my parents would call it that, but we had a 1-acre garden. We had the Volkswagen buses.
That just well, of course. Now I want to go digging. I'm like Catholic hippie. That is a concept completely.
Yeah, no, it's a really, you know, my dad just being a barber and a jokester, and him and my uncle ran a barber shop, and they had all kinds of pranks. And then my mom, you know, just we didn't have a lot of money. Like, you know, you can hear that right there. Dad is a barber. You have 5 kids. So we were almost hippies by necessity. So we had like handmade clothes and, you know, a lot of thrift store stuff and just kind of putting it together. And then because there wasn't a lot of money to go around, we had a 1-acre garden. My dad did a lot of hunting and fishing.
That's cool.
And yeah, we basically, my mom sort of healed us at home with herbs, and then she got super into nutrition, which was not happening in, you know, I'm 49, so this was, you know, my mom was writing a Whole Foods cookbook in the early 70s when everyone else was eating Hostess cupcakes and you know, Oscar Mayer, you know, liverwurst and whatever bologna sandwiches. So we were the kids with. Yeah, okay.
Twinkies, baby. It's all about Twinkies.
Yeah, I wanted to so bad. I wanted to so bad. But so we had my mom was into recycling back then, which no one was doing.
Nobody had any idea what that was. Yeah.
No one even knew about it. We were like, you know, my mom would come into my Catholic school and give sprout demonstrations, teach all the kids to grow sprouts.
That's cool.
Had her wheat germ charts. She'd take a loaf of white bread and smush it down to a ball and throw it across the room and talk about how it's all air and it's missing all the nutrients. And so yeah, we were different, and that's how I grew up. Then I did, you know, just I did a lot of interesting little things. Like I flew to South Africa to meet my pen pal.
That's cool.
I wrote to her for 10 years, and then after 10 years, I saved up all my money babysitting and waitressing. My first plane ride was at 18, me flying myself to South Africa for 3 months. Traveling
not just going to another state, but clean out the country.
Yeah, no, like my first plane ride was like 77
Here's a great idea. Let's go someplace I've never been in the world and not like.
Yeah, I was kind of adventurous, and then, you know, at one point I traveled around and lived in like communes all over the United States and like worked in exchange. I did go to school in Milwaukee. Actually, it was the year Jeffrey Dahmer was murdering everyone.
Oh my goodness.
I lived there that year. And then I moved out to California, and I lived in my tent for a year, going to massage school, this healing arts school. And because we still didn't have a lot of money, I did like
in true form. That's
true form. Oh gosh, it was a total trip, this place.
I'm quite sure it must have been very enjoyable too. Because
it It was. I actually got a lot of healing. And, just growing up in a culture where kids were hit and smacked around, and I had nuns that would slap us across the face. And we even had a crib in our classroom in third grade where you got put in the crib, like you got publicly humiliated if you were bad, like just
Wow.
really abusive. But it was the norm. It was kind of the norm
Back, yeah. We're
back
the same age.
then.
I do remember those norms.
Yeah, it was just a culture of like,
Yeah.
and kids were almost seen as like subhuman. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's different now.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to do with my parents. That's how they were raised. And it's just, it was a different culture. It was a
Yep.
different awareness. And there wasn't the awareness of like attachment parenting. There
Yeah.
wasn't the awareness of just child development.
Yeah.
It's,
Yep.
and praise, like, no, that's not, that's a way to ruin your child, or thought to ruin your child, to give them praise. And so I spent a lot of time feeling pretty lost as a kid and really different than other people.
Mm.
And always wanting to know why, always wanting to know more, and just feeling unsettled in who I was, like not feeling like I was in my own skin. And it took me so many years to figure that out. I did go to school to become a teacher, and I have a teaching degree in arts, and I also have a Bachelor of Fine Art in painting and drawing.
Nice.
So, and I used music and art, like I played in bands for 20 years. A lot of rock bands, a lot of punk bands, a lot of metal bands. Yeah, nice. Michael's raising his hand. So I use that, to heal myself too, or to, I don't know if heal is the right word, but to kind of just, it was a really great way to be with people too, to
Yeah.
play music,
Yep.
because it wasn't like you had to talk that much. You had a central focus and you were building something together.
Yep.
And, I have two kids. I have two teenage daughters. They're 14 and 15. One of them tried to bleach a shirt last night at 10 o'clock at night, right as we're all trying to go to sleep. And she dumped an entire half gallon of bleach on it. And we all had like basically bleach poisoning last night. Our whole house was full of fumes and we're all coughing. And so, yeah, I have teenage daughters. And
Kudos for her
um,
trying to be independent, but maybe she should have asked for a little help on that first run.
yeah, yes. It probably could have, she probably could have taken a cap full of bleach, put it in some water, and that could have done the job. But now that I think it got damaged. I don't even know. It's in a plastic bag sitting outside on the roof right now. We just threw it out the window. Just had to get the fume smell out. We'll deal with it
Oh
later.
yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
yes, two teenage daughters, and my husband and I, 14 years ago, we started a restaurant. It's a brick oven pizzeria, and it's been just a wild ride. It's a lot of farm to pizza type
Sweet.
of thing.
Sweet.
We really unusual combinations. Like we have a flathead cherry with house-made sausage and smoked Gouda. That's really popular. We have a meatball
This is
verde
great. So this is
pizza.
real artisan style stuff. This is really
Yeah,
fun.
and
This
it's
that
like
sounds
we use a
wonderful.
Viga, which is a sourdough starter. It's
Yeah.
called Viga Pizza.
Yeah.
And it's been, my husband works there a lot, but mostly now what I'm doing is health coaching. And this is my third year doing it. And so it's kind of new. So I left, working at a middle school and then opening the restaurant, to now I'm really not at the restaurant much anymore. I used to be
Yeah.
there prepping and cooking and helping with things, but I'm really not there much anymore. Both of my kids work there. They're both dishwashers. But,
Gotta get them
so
started sometime. That's how it works.
yeah, so that's the basic story. And the interesting part about it is my journey with depersonalization disorder. So you throw that into the mix. And for me, and for those of you who don't know what depersonalization disorder is, it's a feeling of being detached from your body. And if you've ever done any drugs in your life, you know what that feels like. So it's kind of like smoking a ton of weed, or taking LSD or something, except you didn't take anything. And that's what's really terrifying about it. And so most people, I will say that most people have experienced depersonalization at some point in their life. And that could be, you get into a car accident and that feeling where you're kind of like not in your body afterwards and you're sort of out of it. And it's just this feeling that you're detached somehow from your body, or you're like trying to wake up and you can't. Like you think maybe like if I just drink some more coffee, I'll wake up. Most people have experienced it with any kind of surprising event. It's actually more common or as common as anxiety.
Huh.
The, the problem is when you kind of your brain learns that loop. So it's like a response to trauma or
Hmm.
excessive adrenaline, right?
Yeah.
But then your brain learns that neural pathway, and then that becomes your default and you can't get off of it. And you can become really detached. You feel like you're detached from your body,
Hmm.
but also your usual thoughts, because what happens is you become obsessively, you think you can get out of this with your mind. Okay, I can think my way out of it. So it's like, wait, why did this happen? Why did this happen? Or, oh my God, here it is. Like, look at this sensation. And become like hyper vigilant, hyper focused, and almost like
Yeah.
obsessive compulsive
Yeah.
about the experience of being out of your body, which only strengthens that neural pathway
Right.
further.
Right, right.
And so it's a nightmare. Okay. You literally feel like you're in a bad dream and you can't wake up.
Wow.
It's a nightmare. And a lot of people get this. So there's a couple of reasons why people get this. Oops, I'm just going to shut this. No, it's okay. It doesn't matter. I've just realized that you won't be able to see.
We can
Just
see
the
it.
sun streaming in, and it's gonna.
It's got an angelic glow on the side.
Yeah.
You're all right. You're fine.
I can't block the sun because in Montana we have, in the winter we have like 60 to 80% overcast days,
Yeah.
and so I like any speck of vitamin D I can get. But I'll just say this one last thing about it with depersonalization. So a lot of people get it either from childhood trauma, and but when I say trauma, most people think of trauma as like severe sexual abuse or rape or some kind of severe abuse or loss or something like that. But trauma, and I've studied trauma now for a long time, and it can be something simple as like a car accident or a medical procedure, or it's basically you don't get a choice to what your body decides is trauma.
Yeah.
Your limbic system is only concerned with one thing: is it safe or not safe? And without you getting to make a choice on it, it embeds a code into your limbic system that says no, it's not safe, and your limbic system overrides your prefrontal cortex. You don't get to make a cognitive decision about like, oh, I'm not going to react to this. So it can just happen in an instant. So yes, it could have happened, depersonalization, from some kind of trauma that could be a severe or not severe. But a lot of people get it from either smoking marijuana for the first time, or taking some kind of mood altering drug or something like that. And then what happens is you usually it gets solidified by panicking.
Yeah.
So when you go into complete panic mode, then your brain like really locks in, like, okay, now it's really not feeling safe. And I think it can kind of, you can get stuck in this loop. If you could maybe like just chill out and not react to it and not be attached to it, and like let your body, and everything that John Levine and anyone who teaches somatic experiencing therapy has learned over the years. Basically, when you experience trauma, and believe me, going out of your body is traumatic. It really is. And if you can sort of ride it out and try to accept it and let your body shake, let your body get hot, let your body remove the charge, then you probably would never even get depersonalization disorder. You'd have the experience, and then the next day you feel a little weird, and you just keep like staying in a place of non-judgment, and then pretty soon your body would find a balance again and go back into like a parasympathetic nervous
Kind of
system.
normalize it and just normalizing the event as a not safe. It's okay. I mean,
Yeah,
happening, and yeah,
exactly.
it's not cool, but we're not in any real threat, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how you can get stuck in the loop. And for me, I got it from smoking marijuana at 15. And then, but I probably had some just childhood, trauma, of just growing up in, like I said, the culture that I did grow up in. And also you have to look at your ancestral trauma too. And, if your parents and your parents' parents have been through anything traumatic, you're also carrying those in your cellular, molecular,
Hmm. Hmm.
memories.
Hmm.
And so it's all of it compounds, and it can be this event like, smoking marijuana and getting, I mean, a lot of people smoke marijuana and don't get depersonalized. I know for a fact after experiencing this, for so many years, 30 plus years, is that the hormone link is really huge. And so I was going through puberty at the time.
Yeah.
And then look at these other times in my life that it came back, which was right after I had my kids. So you have to look at these hormonal times and or times of stress when you have all this extra,
Yeah.
your adrenals
Yeah.
are messed up, you have high, norepinephrine, high cortisol levels, all of that.
Completely out of balance because of I mean, especially if you're giving birth. I mean, that's a trauma in and of itself too. I mean,
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And especially for me, because I did have both my kids in my living room. Like I stuck to my hippie Catholic roots there.
that a
But
girl, trooper.
yeah, I actually, the reason I did that is I wanted to have a birth experts um, help me through the process, not a doctor who it's one of the many things they do. I wanted a birth expert, which is what I got. But for me, I had pretty intense back labor, pretty intense labor, and it um, and if I would have had a baby in the hospital, both of my kids would have been C-sections, just because I had a cervix that wouldn't dilate, all these things, and they had to do all these, you know, amazing techniques that only midwives actually know. Like doctors don't even know these techniques.
No, we're not taught that stuff.
No. So anyway, like that's my journey, and I I was doing pretty great. I had when I got depersonalization in high school. Actually, at one point I was hospitalized. Um, and then I, just on and off, like really feeling out of my body, and pretty much had to go to school feeling like I wasn't really there.
Yeah.
Imagine like taking drugs and then going to school and trying to get good grades. Like it's hard to retain information. Um,
Try not to forget too
Eventually,
many
I
memories for me.
distracted myself. Yeah, eventually I distracted myself out of the neural pathway loop by just going to college and studying something else and putting my mind somewhere else. And so over the years, I've learned these different techniques, and that's what I'm writing my book about. It's really how it's all the different things all the little pieces I picked up all along the way. And I still continue to have relapses sometimes, but now I'm able to like turn it around in a matter of minutes or days. So instead of then panicking or getting into another and then reinforcing those, I have all these different techniques. And it's kind of interesting as when I do have these little relapses, I'm able to actually practice the steps of my signature system on myself
That's
and then
cool.
refine them even further. Um, so, I think this is what brought me to becoming a health coach. One is like, I'm just a really avid learner. I've always been just really insatiable learner. And so to have a place like a lot of people, basically, I was always health coaching. I've always had people coming to me and I've always helped people. But now I've just officially, declared that I'm doing that. So yeah, and I'm at beyondwellliving.com, and I have basically the two programs. So I have just anyone that wants to improve their life and using things from Ayurveda and behavior science. I'm all about why, like how we do it, not just why we need to do it, how you actually do these things, right? So habit science, super into it. And then really looking at nature, and that's why I love Ayurveda. And and then all these other things I've learned about health and wellness. A lot of it has to do with feeling your emotions and not numbing ourselves. And we all have these phones, right? That we
Right.
have this
I
constant
think that's a
distraction.
huge thing these days is that
It's
people are
huge.
disregarding. Some are over investing into it, unfortunately, but there is that place of balance. I mean, you have to, they're there. They're not, it's not a non-existent thing. You do have to acknowledge that there's something there. I mean, your body and your brain are all trying to tell you something when something's going on. If your heart's racing, something's going on. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's really what this all is. It's a deep listening practice. And it's
There you go.
listening, that's all it is. We have to listen to our bodies. And that's like the thing that I keep going back to this polyvagal theory, because people used to think, okay, you have your sympathetic nervous system, and then your parasympathetic nervous system. when this one's on, this one's off. When this one's off, this one's on. And now, and I always felt like there were holes in this theory, because what about when you're really excited and you're playing, like you're wrestling with someone? Okay, are you in flight or fight or rest and digest? No, you're somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like your sympathetic nervous system is triggered, but you're not fighting and flighting. You're in this place of intense play where you still feel safe. And so there's this third system now that people are talking about, and this has been going on for 10 years of talking about the polyvagal theory, but it's really, and that's why it's like so important to look at the science behind this. So that's why I love John Levine. It's like when animals go through those life or death situations, right? They escape. And then how are they recovering from these traumas, right? They just were in a life and death situation. They just got chased by a lion. You're a gazelle, you just got chased by a lion. And how are they eating and back into rest and digest in a matter of minutes after they realize they're safe? And it's because they actually allow that charge to discharge. So they allow themselves to shake. They allow themselves to get hot. They allow themselves to move through. And basically, it's like all this excess adrenaline, right? And they allow themselves to discharge that, and then they're fine. But what we do, because we have this higher thinking part of our brains that say, whoa, wait, why am I shaking? I got to stop that. Wait, why am I hot? I got to cool myself down. Wait, why? I'm going to sit on my hands. I don't want anyone to see that I'm shaking.
Right.
And we basically trap that discharge. We trap that charge inside of us. And so a lot of our problems have to do with our brains, and we're in our own ways. And that's why we're so disconnected from our bodies, and we see our brains as being able to to be able to override everything. And what happens is we actually have stopped listening to our lizard brain, our reptilian part of our brain, which is, and it's really like, and this is how one of the ways I balance myself whenever I have a relapse, is I tune into my body. I get out of my brain's way, and I say, like, I just have this direct communication with just my limbic system, just my autonomic nervous system. And I say, like, okay, where are you tense? Where are you? We have to think about what is an emotion. It's like this neurocluster of, chemicals, right? That we call an emotion. We just put a word on this combination of different, cluster of neurochemicals. But really it's something that's happening in your body. Emotion, it implies motion, movement. It's something that's happening in your body, physical. And then we think that, so that we sort of like, we have this disconnect between our body and our minds. But really the closer we can get to deep listening to our bodies and getting out of our heads. I know that was probably over 15 minutes, but yeah, that's that 15-minute segment. But yeah, I just think it's really interesting to me. I think it's really fascinating. I tried for so many years to heal myself using my mind. And basically I finally had to figure out that I need to settle my body in order to settle my mind.
What's really interesting about what you just said is because I have a lot of friends that are former military. It's interesting that I work with a lot of people that are former military, some of them in special forces of different types. And they talk about that too. It's like when you're in the midst of a fight or flight situation, if you're in a firefight, yeah, you're on edge. Your body's going like, oh, and your brain's just like, okay, how do we fix this? And their training teaches them to go in and start breathing a certain way. They call it, the SEALs call it box breathing.
Oh yeah, I was just reading about this because there's a book called Breath by James Nestor, and it's all about breath control. He was just talking about box breathing.
Yeah, and box
4 in, 4 out, or 4 in, hold for 4 out.
Yeah, and what that does is that calms it. It's a way of not necessarily controlling yourself, but allowing you to get through the process of whatever it is you're feeling and calming down. So kind of a style of discharge, if you will, which is really cool. I get what you're saying. And I never thought about that because, we watch National Geographic and we watch the animals and they do their thing. And when the chase is over, they show the one being pursued as like, no big deal. And you're looking at it going, bruh, you just got like almost killed.
Yeah,
How you just like back to eating?
exactly. And that's why we have to look to animals and look to nature.
Yeah.
And that's why I love Ayurveda too. Like when we look to nature to be our teacher and say like, okay, we're an animal. Why are we overriding our animal instincts a lot of the time? And it's because we have this higher thinking, but it gets in our way sometimes. And we're almost too smart. We've created these phones and the social media platforms, and we've almost created this alternate reality that's not reality. And sometimes we need to go back to looking at like circadian rhythms, looking at gene clocks, looking at nature, looking at like how are these animals doing this, and then like we forget to learn from animals and nature. There's certain things happening in your body, whether you want them to or not, at different times of the day. You
Exactly.
have sharpest rise in blood pressure.
Yep.
You have melatonin starts to secrete at 9:30 at night. We have serotonin, starting to secrete at this time. We have, and if you look at that's why I love, like, I can't believe like these Vedics, like these Ayurvedic people like back 5,000 years ago, they already predicted what's now, people are getting like Nobel Peace Prizes for these gene clock, exploration. And I love the book, Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life by Dr. Sue Haskell.
Cool.
It's incredible because it's basically a handbook for how to live. But we have to look to nature, and we have to, and that's that balance that you were talking about earlier, finding that balance. And it's really about like the best, I think the best like way to sum up Ayurveda is like increases like, and the opposite creates balance. So if it's cold out and then you're going outside in your shorts and then you're drinking ice water, and you have to think like you're creating more cold and you're
Yep.
putting out your digestive fire.
Yep.
But if it's hot out, you're not going to like, put like a giant winter coat on, right? So we're always trying to balance out our, that's the best way to heal yourself. And I believe that any body can heal of anything if you give it the right support it needs, and then if you look for the root cause too, that's really huge. Like,
Yeah.
we are in such a treat the symptoms culture. And
we didn't used to be that way.
right.
We used to be one that did look for the root causes of things. There was a certain push, I want to say back just around the ending of World War II or so. It might have been earlier. I'll have to go back and research it, but I came across it where there was a shift because of a certain push to make naturopathic and homeopathic remedies look quackish,
Uh-huh.
so that the focus would be going over to allopathic medicine, which treats
Oh yeah.
symptoms.
That's where the money was. You have to follow the money trail. And pharmaceutical drug company.
Before we run into that, guys,
Yeah.
this is not conspiracy theory. You can research this for yourself on YouTube. There was a shift away from natural and homeopathic because of what she just said. If you follow the money, you'll understand where all of this goes. If you think it's a conspiracy, go ahead and prove us wrong. But it's kind of simple and it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. I would summarize it like this. You can't make money off of a plant unless you change it slightly and then you're able to patent it. You can't patent lavender. You can't put a patent on lavender, but you can take lavender and you can change the components slightly, and then you can put it in a scientific lab and you can change it a little bit, and now it's lavadora or whatever you want to call it, and now it still has, now it's a sleep drug that you're using, but you added your own little science, so you can't, it's all about patenting, and it's all about money. And for me, that's why, I mean, my daughter just had nasal surgery. I want an MD. Like, I want someone who knows how to do. But when I want to look for the root cause of something, I go to a naturopathic doctor or a functional medicine doctor.
It's just a lot
And
easier.
for me, I will always look for, like, one of my daughters has endometriosis, right? And I've been healing her with herbs and all different kinds of things at home. And she's like, but I just want to get, I just want to like have a regular doctor check me out. I go, it's going to be $200 to $300 to have the appointment. For them to tell me something that I already know or to basically want to cover your symptoms up. But yes, okay, I'll take you. So we went, and of course it was like $270
Jeez.
for this doctor to say, I want to put her on birth control for the rest of her life. For the rest of her life, she'll never have another period. We're just going to block her period. He said, don't you think, like, what about, let's look for the root cause. Like, why is she getting this? Let's look. And she looked at me like I was crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
All she knew to do was to tell me that all she has is these 4 different birth control pills, and which one do I want? And it's like, none of them, goodbye. And
Yeah.
and my daughter was like, okay, you were right. That was the best. I
Sorry,
love it.
Ma. Should have listened, Ma.
Yeah, but it just comes down to it's just common sense. It's not conspiracy theories. It's common sense, and it's like, just look at the side effects alone of these drugs. Okay, if you just went back to the source and took out, instead of someone manipulating an herb, it's really all they're taking nature, they're changing it slightly, and then you're getting the side effects because of the. I'm not saying that all herbs are good, and you have to like really know what you're doing, because you can also cause some pretty crazy damage. I mean, herbs are powerful.
I got 2 stories around that, and we're gonna take a short pause for about 30 seconds, guys. We're gonna come back. We're gonna continue this, even though we'll get into the inspirational stuff. But this is good discussion, so we'll come back about 30 seconds. We'll talk a little bit more about this. I got 2 stories to share with you that deal with that, like herbology and stuff of that nature. And one was actually in a TV show, so I'll explain how that worked when we come back. And we're back here, Java Chat with Cindy, and talking about getting back to nature, talking about understanding root causes. There was a show, you got to remember the show Kung Fu with David Carradine.
What is it called?
Kung Fu with David Carradine.
Oh yeah, Kung Fu. Yeah, totally.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, go to YouTube. They got a whole bunch of episodes there. It's a guy who was basically a Chinese monk, came to the States. In one of the episodes, there was something going on about honor or dishonor or something like that, and herbology played into it, and it happened to deal with a type of flour that could be made into a substance that could take the body near death. You could not, in other words, you could bring the person to the point where there was no breath coming out of their nose, but they weren't dead. It just took them to that level where it was like meditative. You mentioned how dangerous it can be. If you are not an apothecary, you didn't make that. This guy was. So he knew how to do it. But yeah, you have to be aware of what it is. If you're going to go into that realm, you need to know what you're playing with. Because some of these things are dangerous.
I mean, and we don't know what each body is different, and each body type is different, and what works for one person could kill the next person.
Absolutely.
And so you have to be really careful, because you don't know what kind of environmental toxins one person's been exposed to. You don't know the buildup of household toxins. Like maybe this is someone that's already on the brink of something, and then they take something and it pushes them over the edge. I love adrenal adaptogenic herbs, because I love adaptogenic herbs because they basically act differently in every body depending on what that body needs.
Right.
And I use those a lot for mental balance, like ashwagandha.
Yeah.
And things like that. But I don't. Well, one, I can't legally prescribe those, because being a health and wellness coach, I don't have, I'm not allowed to prescribe them. But I can say my experience. But I'm even afraid to do that sometimes, because then someone might, take it to the next level. And yeah, you really have to. So my sister Sue, she went through stage 3B cancer.
Oh, wow.
And she's 4 years older than me. She lives here in Missoula. So does my younger sister. And then I have another sister in Wisconsin, and my brother's in Hawaii. But my sister Sue, I was her advocate and her confidant. And, we went and lived in an alternative clinic in Mexico. And what I found with that is, when you're facing like life and death, you really have to get super in tune with your body and who you are and what you need. And it could be totally different from this person and this path. You have to find your path. And I love the book Radical Remission by Kelly Turner. She traveled all over the world for 10 years, finding out why people recovered, no matter if they did allopath or, whatever route they took. And someone did a combination. And she found like the 12 things that they all did. And that's kind of like what this is with like what we're talking about with herbs, is you have to really, I don't care if it's a life-threatening thing or a minor thing. You have to really tune into your body, figure out what you need. And then we talked about this before we started the show today, finding the right people. And so I love, like with my sister, we hired a cancer consultant, she actually was an allopathic nurse for 25 years. And then she saw so many people not recovering from, chemo and just all these things. So she started looking into alternative methods. And then she ended up becoming this coach that knew both worlds. So we hired her. She was an expert. We hired the best. It's like, can you guide us? And she's the one that said to us, the first thing you should do is get this chemosensitivity test, which is called the Greek test. And basically, they test your specific blood against 50 chemo agents, as well as 50 alternative, non-toxic, aggressive treatments.
Right.
Like there's all kinds of things, but high dose vitamin C IVs, turmeric pushes. They push a turmeric right into your veins, wormwood pushes, all these things. Okay. And they find out what your specific makeup, how it's going to, be the best.
Right.
And we're so glad we did that, because that was one of the things that saved her life. By the way, she's totally cancer free. We're almost 5 years out. She's
Sweet.
crushing it. And it was the best thing we ever did. So yeah, when you work with herbs, you want to go work with an herbalist, or you want to go to a naturopathic doctor, or you want to find a functional medicine doctor who's studied herbs. You want to find someone who's going to look at your specific body type. So in Ayurveda, they call it dosha type. And you can go to banyanbotanicals.com. You can actually take this test to find out, what's your dosha type. And you can kind of just like figure out how you're different than other people, and then find the right path. I think just reading on Google, which is fine, and then saying like, oh, these herbs and this and that, and you start just shooting, blindly and trying all these different things, and then you don't really know which one actually helped, can be dangerous. You just have to be careful and find get the right advice and the right guidance. But it's all, medicine. It's all, so medicine or poison, depending on your approach.
Yeah. We've had a couple of guests here that are, one was a former ER doctor who is now functional medicine. The other one was pharmaceutical path education, and became, again, another one that became naturopathic functional medicine advocate, and basically they both practice it. And I think one of my biggest, because of my culture, is we have in Hawaii, we have our own kahunas. Kahuna just means master, that are masters of our herbs and things that you can find in Hawaii. And I've used certain ones, and I've stayed away from others, but only because the people that are the experts in it go, yeah, you probably don't want to touch that one. That one's probably not good for you, but try this instead. And it's interesting, we're living in experimentation with our own selves, no matter what we do, whether it's what we eat, what we drink, anything we put into ourselves. And I think over time, if you're paying attention, one of my workmates, she doesn't eat red meat anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's not that she doesn't eat, because she still eats fish and she'll still eat chicken, but she won't eat red meat because she knows that it bothers her stomach. So her digestive processes doesn't want to mess with red meat no more. So she doesn't.
Yep. I'm such an advocate of this. And one of the habits I teach in my Habits for Thrive program, which is I forgot to say this earlier. So I have my depersonalization recovery group, which is going to start up in April. But right now I'm working one-on-one with people with depersonalization from all over the world. Mm-hmm. Okay, but I also just teach Habits for Thrive. Like, here's 10 habits that will completely change your life. And one of them is follow your meal plan. So you create your own meal plan based on your own personal data, because it's going to be different for everyone, because there is that ancestral component. And I always look to centenarians. I always look to the people who lived the longest.
Yep.
And Dan Buettner's work, The Blue Zones, he traveled all over the world for 10 years also, living with the people who live the longest. And then he created a list of everything they all do. One of them is they all eat 95% plant-based diet. When I say 95% plant-based diet, I'm talking, sometimes people just think of plants, but I'm talking about whole grains and legumes and plants, of course, too, fruits and vegetables. And then, of course, they eat fish and wild caught, things like that, game and grass-fed meat. But for the most part, 95% plant-based. But basically, you have to look to your ancestry, because like what your ancestors ate in Hawaii, that's actually like what your body knows. Like it's like coded to know that food.
And that's just the Hawaiian side. The other side is German. Because what I was
Okay.
about to say is I'm happy chomping on a ribeye on any given day of the week. So and we were hunter gatherers from what I understand from our clan. So it's like, and I still love fish. I mean, I'll grab a bowl of poke in a heartbeat and chow down. And I don't, I'm not a one to shy away from vegetables either. Just plants and so on. There's plenty of plants to eat. And if that's what's available, guess what? We're eating. So I agree with you, is what I'm saying, is that you have to understand where you're from. And like this colleague is Russian. So fish and chicken kind of seem commensurate with what they would have in their diet, because I don't know that they were huge beef eaters. I could be wrong, but for her, that's what works.
Yeah, and we've like you said this earlier, like where we're kind of like these living guinea pigs or experiments, and it's like you take people from all over the world, and then you have like you add airplanes, and everyone starts moving, and you have people with more melanin in their skin. Now all of a sudden they're somewhere where there's no sun, and now they're vitamin D deficient, and you have someone else who grew up on all living pretty much off the land. Now they live somewhere where it's like McDonald's and all these fast food places are like what's available or what's the cultural norm,
and they
all
can't
these like
they can't figure out why they're insulin resistant and can't lose
yeah,
weight.
exactly.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's insane, like what we've done
Migrations
as
are no
humans.
longer migrations are no longer what they used to be. I mean,
No, and we've gotten so far away from our roots that we don't even really know. And, it's like we have to take a 23andMe test to even find out who we are, because there's been so much, movement. And really, that's why I teach not a diet. I teach a meal plan for life, and I got this information, some of it from the book Shades of Hope, which was written by this woman Tenny McCarthy. But it's really about no time frame, no number like on a scale, and no what's the other thing? No time frame, no number on the scale. I can't even remember what's the last thing. But basically, it's you taking your life's data, and no goal. I think it is. It's just here's my meal plan for life. This is what I have. Like I should show you mine. It's on my fridge. I think I brought it out the other day, but my meal plan for life. And I'm always changing it. I'm always altering it. I'm like, I thought I could have like a ton of dairy, but then I'm realizing that's what brought my allergies back on. Now all of a sudden I'm sneezing and coughing, and I have all this mucus and blowing my nose all day. And you're like clearing your throat, even hearing that. Yeah, and it's like, okay, that.
because I remember that I don't drink milk anymore. I stopped drinking milk years ago.
Yeah, me too. And I grew up in Wisconsin, so I almost felt like
Of
sacrilege.
all places, that just is the
Yeah.
biggest contradiction.
Totally. I mean, I still have cheese sometimes with like raw goat cheese or like raw cheeses. But I still have like local cheese. We have this really great organic cheese farm here, like a dairy farm here, Lifeline Farms. Incredible people. And I know these cows, like I know these people. And so it's local, and there is something to that, macrobiotic eating and, and eating just, I say this to my course members. The earth is trying to feed you. It's like you look around your yard and I see these dandelions coming up, and it's like, oh, I should be eating dandelion greens right now. This is what the earth is trying to feed me. And it's like, what's in dandelion? You look at dandelions, right? And you look at their roots, like, they're badass plants, right? They like that's the kind of Like, what do you want to build your new tissue and cells out of? You want to, and what are you asking your body to build new tissue and cells out of? You're asking them to build it out of only cheeseburgers and fries, or are you going to give them some nutrients? And then I really like just the whole concept of the 5 tastes. And it's like, are you only eating, sweet and salty? Are you bringing in any astringent food? Are you bringing any pungent food or bitter foods into your diet? And it's almost like, whoa, when you eat some of these things like dandelion greens, it's like, whoa, this is super intense. And yet there's this memory that's back in your ancestral DNA of that plant.
Yeah.
And it's just this really incredible way to connect with your past by eating the food of your past cultures.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes absolute sense. We got to take another break.
Okay.
But when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about what's coming up, where people can find the group and so on and so forth. These are the kinds of fun conversations I love having, because you can get into all these wonderful things about life, living, and staying alive. It's literally part of the end saying. You'll hear it at the end. So we'll take another 30 seconds. We'll be right back. We're back here, Java Chat, sitting here with Cindy Marshall, just going through all kinds of amazing stuff. Guys, if you wanna learn more about it, obviously you can find her. We're gonna have all of her links down below, but we'd like to find out what you're up to next. Now, you said you're gonna launch a group here shortly for the depersonalization. Is that correct?
Yeah. Okay.
When does that launch?
Let me tell you a little bit about all of this. Okay, on April, the first week of April, I'm going to be starting up the depersonalization group. It's going to be Wednesday, April 7th at 10:30. We're going to be meeting weekly. I'm going to walk you through my 10-step program for completely recovering from depersonalization disorder, and also knowing and having the tools for any relapses in the future, so that you never have to be afraid of that again, and that you can live an incredible and full life like I do without having one inkling of fear of it returning, because you'll have all the tools.
Yeah.
So that's happening this coming Saturday, which is in a few days here. If you want to learn how to overcome sugar, the addiction to sugar, which we all have, especially in America, I'm teaching a Sugar Busters Masterclass, and I'm going to teach you the habit science around how to, and you don't have to eradicate it completely. I mean, you can't, but you'll be able to have control of it instead of it having control over you and feeling like these binges or these cravings that you get that take over once in a while. You won't have those anymore. You might still have those, but you'll have different tools to navigate them, so that you don't go off on these little tangents of sugar addiction.
Hostess.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun. That's this coming Saturday at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's $25. My Habits for Thrive program, the next round is going to start out May 3rd, and it's a year-long coaching program. And right now we have 11 people in it. We meet every Monday from 6 to 7:30 every night, or every Monday night, and we just dive in, and we learn a habit a week in 10 weeks, and then we repeat those same habits in all different seasons, because you could be crushing it in summer, and then all of a sudden winter comes and you fall into your depression or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so you learn to just crush it, and it's really about habit automation. Habit science is a huge part of my program, because we can all know what we need to do, but without the right methodology and the tools and the accountability is really key. It's really easy to just slip back in. So that's happening. Before that, I'm doing a 3-week Ayurvedic cleanse. So you can drop 10 pounds, you can feel lighter in your body, and you can basically twice a year I do these cleanses so that we can reset and detox and it's like you're full the whole time. Like, you're not hungry at all in this cleanse. You're eating oatmeal in the morning, and eating basically Indian beans and rice for lunch and dinner. But the first part of it is just eliminating alcohol. You can still have caffeine. You can still have a cup of coffee in the morning. Okay, this is Java Chat. I'm not going to take that from you.
Thank you. I was getting worried there for a second.
No, in fact, with Ayurveda, 1 cup of coffee is fine in the morning for most people. I can't have it because you don't even want to. You see how talkative I am now? Times that by about 100. Right. But yeah, so that is going to start, and that's $100 for a whole 4-week 4 weeks of support and Zoom calls and really cool group. And that's going to be starting April 5th. So every Monday in April from 6 to 7 p.m. And then also every Wednesday in October.
And
I teach monthly classes.
I was gonna say I'm gonna assume that this is gonna be on a cyclical kind of basis.
Yep.
Where
I teach like really fun monthly classes. I'm teaching calendar integrity. If you want to get in integrity with your energy and calendar, next month I'm doing that. I'm teaching meal planning mastery in April. If you want to know a really simple system, because it's again how we do it. We all know we need to eat healthier, but actually doing it is another story. So I've broken it down to like a science. So that's easy for people to implement, really good, easy tools. And yeah, every month I teach like teach a different workshop.
That's
and
cool.
Those are $25. I love teaching those because that's a way to kind of like check me out.
People can find this on your website?
www.beyondwellliving.com. There are 3 L's in a row there. Cindy Marshall. I'm also on Facebook under Beyond Well Living, but I have all of my programs listed there. You can find me, you can email me at cindymarshallhealthcoach at gmail. That's with 2 L's, CINDYMARSHALL healthcoach at gmail.com. And if you ever just want to do a 15-minute, you have like allergies, I'm just looking at you, Michael. If you have something that you want just like to troubleshoot and look at and a little bit, I'm totally always up for like a 15 to 45-minute free like session, so you can kind of just feel like what it feels like to work with me. Just see check it out. We can see if we have like good.
Sounds amazing. I'm having my sinuses cauterized, just to be clear. I'm kidding. But you have a book coming out soon too, right?
I do. So I'm in the middle of writing this book. I'm hoping it's done by the end of the year, and it's basically for the depersonalization community. Cool. To have a tool. And it's right now I'm writing like chapter every 2 weeks, and I'm just recommitting to it. And I have this really cool book writing group that we're just like on these work party Zoom calls, and we're just in it to win it. I really want to get this done and out so I can help more people.
That'll work. That'll be awesome.
I want them to have mental freedom.
Yeah, you'll need to let us know when that book comes out so we can help promote it as well on our channels.
Thank you, Michael.
For those of you that are watching on YouTube, of course, all of everything that she's been talking about, the books, the links and everything, that'll all be down in the comment section. If you got a question, ask it there. She'll have the links to it so she can pop in and take a look. Or you heard it, Beyond Well.
Yeah, Beyond Well Living, because it's not about just being good. It's like, how are you going to feel after you're well? What's after survival mode?
Yeah,
I want everyone to be in thrival. I want them to get to thrive, not just survive.
Yeah, there's too much surviving going on right now. We do need to get as a total race, we need to get past that already. So if you're watching again on YouTube and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, make sure you do. Hit the bell right next to it so you can know when we get another amazing guest like this on Java Chat. I've had a total blast with you today. I've learned a bunch and I've totally got a ton of value. So thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us, sharing your knowledge, your insights. It really means a lot to us.
Thank you, Michael. I've really enjoyed being with you and getting to know you a little bit and just chatting about ways that we can basically have more joy in our life and less pain. Yeah. It's all about just feeling more like settled in who we are and more comfortable in our own skin. That's what we all want, right?
Absolutely. And if you guys are listening to us on any of our podcast platforms, there's like 13 of them, I think. Make sure you download them or subscribe on that favorite platform. We are on Spotify, so you can always listen to us while you're on the road or when you're out on a walk, or maybe even when you're at your desk. If you like to pick up some good, valuable information, you can listen to a ton. I think we're over 100 now, and still going. Guys, we just recently got a featured on podcastguest.com, and all of a sudden we're booked out till June.
Wow.
Go
Congratulations.
And then my assistant said, I don't think you understand just exactly how many people are wanting to get on here. And she sent me the Excel sheet and I went, good Lord. So we can't book out that far. Don't go any further than June, please. Just stop right there.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I'm totally thrilled, but it's like, woo! That's a lot of people. But yeah, subscribe. If you're listening to us on our home platform, which is anchor.fm, you're more than welcome to show a little support. We could always use it. Share this with a friend. Share our podcast, whether it's here, Anchor, whatever. Let them know that there's some really good, valuable information coming from these people. And then go follow Cindy. Go follow some of our other guests and go see what they're talking about. They're out there giving out free information a lot of times that give you the beginning insights to what you should know anyway. So by all means, live a good life. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. You know how we love to end this? We always tell you we thank you for watching. We thank you for listening, making the time, and taking the time to do so. For myself, Coffee with Mike, and Cindy Marshall, stay up, stay safe, stay healthy, and live. Ciao for now.
For more information on Java Chat, visit www.javachatpodcast.com. You've been listening to Coffee with Mike on Java Chat. Tune in weekly to this podcast for the next episode. You can also download or subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. A production of Oasis Media Group, LLC. Located in Las Vegas, Nevada. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved.